Elon Musk just gave Anthropic 220,000 of his own GPUs. The same Elon Musk who's been publicly mocking Claude for 2 years. The same Anthropic he called a cult. Why would the loudest critic of Anthropic suddenly hand them the keys to the most powerful supercomputer on Earth? The answer is darker than you think, and it has absolutely nothing to do with AI. Pull up a chair, because what's happening right now isn't a tech story. It's a Shakespearean tragedy with GPUs. Quick refresher for the back row. Anthropic was founded by ex-OpenAI folks who basically said, OpenAI is moving too fast, somebody's gonna get hurt. Noble, cautious, the Volvo of AI labs. Fast forward to today. Anthropic is reportedly closing in on a $1 trillion valuation. That's trillion with a T. Bigger than ExxonMobil, bigger than Walmart, bigger than the GDP of Switzerland. The cautious little brother just became the heavyweight champion, and nobody seems to have noticed the irony. Here's where it gets weird. To hit that scale, you need compute, mountains of it, and Anthropic just signed a deal with, wait for it, Elon Musk's xAI, getting access to the entire Colossus 1 supercomputer, 300 megawatts, over 220,000 Nvidia GPUs, available not next year, not Q3, this month. Now, in case you've been living under a particularly thick rock, Elon has spent the last 2 years dunking on Claude harder than a Lakers playoff game. He's mocked their culture, their model, their vibes, and now he's handing them the keys to his digital Death Star. Why? Because in this industry, your enemy's enemy is your data center. Musk needs a counterweight to OpenAI. Anthropic needs power. And just like that, two guys who can't stand each other are spooning under a mutual self-interest. Capitalism, baby. And here's the kicker nobody's calculating. 300 megawatts is enough electricity to power 240,000 American homes. Anthropic isn't renting servers. They're consuming the energy of a mid-sized city to train one model. The next AI race won't be won in code. It'll be won at the power plant. The real game isn't chatbots. Here's the part the headlines miss. Everyone's still arguing on Twitter whether Claude writes better poetry than ChatGPT. Cute, adorable, completely irrelevant. The real war isn't models, it's infrastructure, it's electricity contracts, it's government clearance, it's who gets to plug into the national grid without the Department of Energy throwing a fit. And Anthropic just stacked the deck like a Vegas dealer with a guilty conscience. Amazon, up to 5 gigawatts of capacity, with a fresh gigawatt online by end of 2026. Google plus Broadcom, another 5 gigawatts coming in 2027. Microsoft plus Nvidia, over $30 billion in Azure compute, up to 1 gigawatt. FluidStack, a $50 billion bet on American AI infrastructure. And oh, by the way, Google itself is investing in Anthropic, $40 billion. Let me translate that last one. Google is simultaneously Anthropic's investor, its supplier, and its direct competitor through Gemini. That's not a business relationship. That's a polyamorous situationship with an NDA. Add it all up, and Anthropic isn't building a chatbot company anymore. They're building a sovereign compute empire. The kind of vertical lock-in that used to take Standard Oil 40 years and one Supreme Court case. Do the math. That's over 16 gigawatts locked up by a single company. For perspective, the entire city of New York runs on roughly 10. Anthropic has quietly secured more future electricity than America's largest metropolis. They're not competing with OpenAI anymore. They're competing with nation-states. Why you felt it this week? If you used Claude, you already noticed something changed. Suddenly, your 5-hour rate limits doubled. Peak hour throttling? Gone. API ceilings on Opus? Blown through the roof. That wasn't a software update. That was 220,000 GPUs coming online overnight. For months, Anthropic had a problem most companies dream about. Their model was too good, and they couldn't serve everyone who wanted it. Engineers were rationing Opus access like wartime sugar. Now, the dam broke. which means the rest of 2026 isn't going to be Anthropic catching up. It's going to be Anthropic running away from the pack. And here's what your boss hasn't figured out yet. Companies that quietly switched workflows to Claude in the last 90 days are about to leave their competitors quarters behind. This isn't a tools upgrade. It's the moment a few short operators just bought a 12-month head start while everyone else is still on a wait list. But here's the twist nobody's talking about. Anthropic has a model so dangerous they refuse to release it. It's called Claude Mythos. Mythos isn't just smart. Mythos is a digital bloodhound that finds software vulnerabilities at superhuman speed. Mozilla quietly let it loose on Firefox. It found and helped patch 271 bugs. 271! In a code base that thousands of human engineers have been hardening for 22 years. Now stop and think about what that actually means, because here's the part that should keep you up at night, and nobody on YouTube is saying it out loud. Every rule-based system humans have ever built is technically code. Tax law? Code. Insurance contracts? Code. Election security? Code. Banking compliance? Code. Mythos doesn't care if the language is Python or legalese. It hunts loopholes. So Anthropic, the safety company, accidentally built the most powerful exploit finder in history. They know it. That's why they won't ship it. But the capability isn't going back in the bottle. Competitors are 6 months behind, max. And when this tech leaks down to the open source layer, every cybercriminal on Earth gets a PhD in vulnerability research for the price of a GPU rental. That's not a product launch. That's a starter pistol. Think about your bank, your hospital records, the power grid, the voting machines. Every one of those runs on code that was good enough in 1998. Mythos Class AI doesn't just find bugs. It finds the bugs nobody knew existed for 20 years. The half-life of digital trust just dropped from decades to weekends. Which brings us to the spiciest plot point of all. Last month, the Pentagon signed AI contracts with 8 major tech companies. 8! Guess who didn't make the list? Anthropic. Why? Because Anthropic refused to let Claude be used for all lawful purposes, Pentagon code for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. The Trump administration was, shall we say, displeased. Anthropic got quietly labeled a supply chain risk and blacklisted from federal contracts. A federal judge temporarily blocked the move, but the White House is now drafting an executive order requiring government review of new AI models before public release. Translation: if you build something the Pentagon can't have, the Pentagon will make sure nobody else has it either. So picture this. Anthropic is the only major lab brave or stupid enough to say no to weaponizing AI, and for that crime they're being squeezed by their own government while simultaneously being courted by Elon Musk. You couldn't write this stuff. Well, you could, but HBO would cancel it for being unrealistic. So here's where we are. A pacifist startup valued at $1 trillion running on Elon Musk's hardware, partnered with Google, who's their rival, blacklisted by the Pentagon, sitting on a model so powerful it could rewrite cybersecurity overnight? Anthropic didn't become the safe alternative to OpenAI. They became something far stranger, the most powerful AI lab nobody is allowed to fully use. And the next 12 months are going to decide whether that paradox makes them the most important company of the decade or the most cautionary tale in tech history.